For many years, one chorus continued to dominate the media airwaves. It was "Over to You, Joe Lartey." "Over to You, Joe Lartey" was synonymous with many Ghanaian journalists because we all grew up hearing "Over to You, Joe Lartey," "Over to You, Joe Lartey." But where did this all start, and how did it become so synonymous with many commentators in the Ghanaian game? Well, today, here on Prime Take, we are speaking to the man who created the "Over to You, Joe Lartey," Joe Lartey Snr, to speak to us on a lot of things about his life. We've probably heard of his public life because he was in the media space, but what are some of the things that we do not have an idea about him? Joe Lartey, my guest here on Prime Take. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. I feel honored, highly honored for you to have me in mind towards the end of my life. Right now I'm 96, and for you to be thinking of a 96-year-old man and then pack your camera and other accoutrements and come to talk to me is great. Very great.
You're not getting to the latter part of your life. In fact, you have many more years to live. You have got many more years to live. We need to tap on the knowledge that you've got, and you'll live for many more years.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for wishing me good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, what was your genesis like? Your upbringing?
The upbringing was rather strict, very strict. My dad, my mother were all leaders of a Methodist church at Koligono. They played a major role in the establishment of the Mount Zion Church of today. And my dad, as well as my mother, they were very strict. So strict that I had an English friend who nicknamed my dad as Killjoy Father. Killjoy. Because I wasn't allowed to do many things. I wasn't allowed to go to cinema. I wasn't allowed to do sports. I wasn't allowed to practice music. I remember very well that my brother-in-law, the man who married my sister, had an organ in his house, and he decided to teach me to play the organ. And I went to his house one night to learn to play the organ. When I came back, my dad gave me a good hiding. I was sick for about 2 weeks. Yeah. And it made me very sad. Then I gave up the organ. Then at school, government school in Accra, I joined the school band, and I was playing the side drum. So I was playing the side drum on the day the then Asantehene visited Accra. And my dad was with an uncle of mine on top of what we call ABBA, AMA today. The AMA, they were up there and they were watching the scene. And I came along playing the side drum with the band. And my father saw me. The next day, he went to Accra Government Boys School where I was attending, went to the headmaster, H.M. Grant was the name, and told him to get me out of the band. And I was cashiered from the band immediately. I stopped playing the band. So many things. I wanted to play the mandolin. I brought a mandolin to the house. The old man saw it. He took it and broke it up. Then the owner came. The owner came demanding the mandolin, and he paid for it. And that was the end of my mandolin course. Very interesting, very strict. 7 o'clock, the gate to the house was locked with a big padlock. Nobody went out, nobody came in. And I wasn't allowed to have friends. I didn't have friends, but the few friends that I had, my dad would always order 6 uniforms for school, 6. And I used to give them to my friends, give some of them to my friends over the wall. I threw it over, you know. So the childhood was pretty tough, very tough.
Very
and
tough.
It led in some way to my joining the British Navy at the age of 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I joined the British Navy at the age of 16. Went to war. I'm an ex-serviceman. And when they were marched, let me say we, because I was part of it, we marched to the castle, the 28th February incident. Yeah, I was part of it. I was in my naval uniform, small boy. My grandmother said, don't go, you don't go, and I went. When the shooting took place and we ran back and I was trying to get back to the house, my grandmother said they should open the gate for you know, interesting. So
Really?
yeah, I'm an ex-serviceman. I had my medals. And I can tell you the story of my medals. I had a classmate from Accra Government Boys School. When I was transferred to teach at Lartey, and I was at Lartey teaching, and this friend of mine came to find out whether I could get him a job. I could get him into, you know, something to do. A day came, I left the house and went to school. By the time I got back, he had stolen everything of mine.
Oh.
My medals, my discharge certificate, everything. And he went with it to Kofredia. They got him. The police managed to get him. But they forgot to ask him about the things that he stole. So I lost all that, you know. And he was sent to prison in Akrupong. And funny enough, the day he was discharged and was going back to Accra,
Yeah.
he was standing by the roadside waiting for a car. Yeah. And I was in the main truck leaving Lartey for Accra, and I saw him. Interesting. I was very sad. He's dead long ago.
Oh.
You know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's part of the adventures.
Were you the first child of your parents?
I was the first child of the two of them.
Okay.
But my father had some other children before he took my mother.
Your mother.
Mm.
Okay. So he was he in the military? Why was he so strict? Your father?
My father was a civil servant. A civil servant in the Treasury Department.
Okay.
Yeah. He served in Cape Coast, served in Tamale, you know, before he retired at the age of 54. In those days, they were retiring at that age.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Oh, okay. Okay. So tell me, do you have other siblings?
Yes, I have a number of siblings.
Oh, okay.
That is an aspect of my life which will appear in the memoir. I won't tell you.
Oh, you are writing a memo?
I'm writing a memo.
Oh, wow.
You know, my life without a memo will be like Shakespeare without Macbeth.
but how many siblings do you have?
Siblings?
Yeah.
Right now, I have two.
Okay.
A lady and a gentleman.
So how was it like with your siblings growing up?
Oh, well, in actual fact, when my father married my mother, they had me and a second one called Nate.
Okay.
And he died at the age of 7.
Oh.
So I was left alone. And because I was the only one between the two of them, that was one of the reasons why they were so strict. They wanted to ensure that I survived. And I think they were right. Here am I, 96. I've survived. My father died at 84. And I have lived up to 96. My mother died at 91. 91, my mother died. And I buried my mother. I buried my mother with the help of other siblings. And, you know, my mother also had 1 or 2 children before she met my dad.
Okay.
And I have a big picture of the two of them.
Yeah, I've seen it here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've seen it here.
Yeah.
So tell me, how were you able to get yourself into the Navy when, despite how strict your father was?
Oh yeah, I ran away. I bolted. That's the word to use. I bolted from the house, from my family, and I worked it all out with friends. I went at that time during the war. The British Navy was recruiting some Ghanaians at Takoradi.
Okay.
I think they still have a base there, Takoradi base. So we arranged. I was only 16, so we had to falsify my age, so that I could get into the Navy. By the time they knew I didn't give them the correct age, it was too late. I had taken the oath, and therefore they couldn't get me out. So I continued until the end of the war.
Which war was that?
The Second World War.
The Second World War?
Yeah, the Hitler War.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But what age did you give them? You were 16. What age did you give them?
23.
You give
23.
So you added 7 years your age.
And I had to brush my hair backwards to make me look old, and funny things we did. Funny things.
That's quite an interesting one. But at what point did you switch into sports? Because many of us know you for your broadcasting career.
My dad did not allow me to do sports. He didn't allow me, but I did sports. And when I started doing commentary on GBC, he sent for me, and he said, "Who taught you to play football?" I learned to play football partly in the Navy. When I came out and I went into teaching, I was also playing doing sports. So he was disappointed.
So when you came back from the Navy, did you go back to the house? Because you bolted to go to the Navy. Did you go back home?
Yes, I bolted, but I went to. My dad was streaking. He was, emaciated. He had a big towel around his waist, and we embraced each other. He held me, and he said, he looked at me. I was in my naval uniform. Then he said, and I quote, he said, "I did not know that the Navy could make men out of boys," unquote. And then we shook hands, and I started telling him the stories, some of the things that I had done in the Navy. It was a memorable occasion. I've never forgotten it.
So this one, when you came back, he didn't fight you?
No, he didn't fight me. He was happy I was back. Very happy. You don't know the things they did for me. Through a party and so on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because it wasn't a joke.
The boy became a man.
Oh, yeah. The prodigal son.
Yeah, the prodigal son, actually. The prodigal son. But at the Navy, what was life at the Navy like?
Life in the Navy was interesting. Interesting. We were knocked out of our beds early in the morning around 5:30, and then we started doing all the necessary things. We have I don't know, it's no longer there, I'm sure. But we had a base in Freetown.
Yes.
The training center was called King Tom Barracks. That was where we trained. And then after training in King Tom, you were drafted to another barracks called Kisi.
Okay.
Kisi Barracks. It's just at it's a shore base. And there you had all the ships and the other things, all the arrangements were there, So when you were recruited in those days in Takoradi, then they transferred you to Freetown to do the training. Then after the training, they will be drafting you to that ship, this ship, and so on,
Okay.
And it was very interesting. And when you're drafted into a ship, maybe a big ship, and these were not merchant ships, they were warships. we had corvettes, we had destroyers, we had submarines, and you know, and we had a big ship in Freetown called Philoctetes. Philoctetes was a supply ship. I was in the supply department.
Oh, okay.
So we're working. I was getting things from Philoctetes to the shore, to other ships, and so on. You know, very interesting. But they were very careful about our health. If you went to town and picked up a disease, you were cashiered straight away. I was discharged. Yeah. So it was interesting. We attended church services. They didn't play with that. We attended church services on board, ashore. We were attending church services. We had parades. And the Navy, what I liked about the Navy, they made sure that you had everything that you would need in the course of your service.
Oh, okay.
Your shoes, your clothing, your caps, your everything. Your raincoat. You had a raincoat for warm weather, raincoat for
cold weather.
That's for cold weather. And so when there was a parade, when we had a parade, there was no way you could say you couldn't attend. You dare not, you know. And like I had in mind, the training and the discipline in the Navy was superior to what I had at home. You know. So while others were complaining about the naval discipline,
yeah.
I was taking it easy.
Because
I'd been prepared for it inadvertently.
Yes, yes.
The old man didn't know he was preparing me for the Navy.
For the Navy, he didn't know that. But tell me about the World War II that you said you were a part of. Because considering a young man with strict parents, all of a sudden in the Navy, then there was the World War I. How was it like?
Well, I went into the Navy because there was a World War I. I went into the Navy because because there was war. If there wasn't war at the time, I couldn't have gone into the Navy.
So you went into the war?
I was an Accra Academy doing my secondary school course.
Oh, okay.
And I ran away from the secondary school, Accra Academy, and joined the Navy, you know. And I joined the Navy because there was war and they were recruiting. What they did was they wanted Africans who could stand the weather, the tropical weather. That's why they recruited some of us here. So immediately the war ended, we were discharged.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know,
okay.
Yeah.
So after the war, you were discharged?
Yeah, that's right. I came back. That's why I came home.
Oh, okay.
And then went to report to my dad. And there he was, grieved, but he was happy to see me back.
Yeah.
You know,
he prodigal son. He will always be happy. But you said, despite the strictness of your parents, for you not to do sports, for you not to do music, you still got into sports. What other sport did you do?
Football. I was a very poor footballer. Yeah. When I trained, I went to do my teacher training at Winneba, the Winneba Training College. Yeah. It was then brand new, fresh. We were the first intake.
Like the pioneers of that?
Yeah, pioneers of that. Yeah. And during the period in the training school, we were playing football. We were doing sport.
Oh, okay.
Because as a teacher, you should know sports. You're going to teach children. You know. So I was
now you had the freedom from your parents to participate in sports.
I mean, then I was a man.
You were now a man.
That's right. So my parents didn't come into the picture.
Yeah, I see.
You know,
I see.
I had, you know, after the war, after the Second World War, when those of us who were discharged, both from the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force, we had to be given jobs in civil streets.
Oh, okay.
That is at home. And the jobs were not there. And that was why we organized a march to the Osu Castle to tell the governor that we needed jobs. We held a rally at the Palladium Cinema House You know the Palladium, very near the Methodist Cathedral.
Yeah.
That's right. We met there. And from there, we started the march to the castle. And when we got to the crossroads, there was this man, Emery, a white man. He was in charge of a platoon of Jane Doe policemen to stop us going to the castle. And he ordered them to shoot, but they refused to. So he took the rifle from one of them and shot Ajete and the rest. So from that point, we started running back to Accra. And it was something that you should see, not described.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll give you the details in my memo.
But that might have been some scary experience, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it was a scary way. That was when the looting started. There was looting, shooting.
Okay.
And the looting went on for weeks. So they brought troops from Nigeria to law and everything broke down in Accra, in Ghana. So they brought troops from Nigeria to control us in Ghana. It was interesting. And these chaps came, they robbed our people, they were searching houses and so on. They robbed our families before they went away. There was rumor that on their way back, they drowned in the Volta River. But it's a story that I never confirmed. Yeah.
Okay. That's quite an interesting one. But let's move to your professional career.
That's right.
I think we heard a lot about your journalism career.
Yeah.
How did it start?
Well, it started like most people. You start writing a little bit on your own, maybe writing to the newspapers. In our time, in the days that we had Azikiwe, who became a president in America, Nnamdi Azikiwe. He was in Ghana.
Oh, really?
And he was one of the people.
One of them is the former Nigerian leader.
Oh yes, he was here, and he was one of the people who opened the eyes of the Ghanaian youth to independence. They started clamoring for, this and that during his time here. So the British government in Ghana cashiered him. They sent him out of Ghana. They took him to court, charged him with, they gave him a charge of sedition or something. Yeah. And they deported him from Ghana. And my eldest brother, he was interested in Azikiwe. He was one of the apostles of Azikiwe. And from that association, I learned a lot from my eldest brother, G. Ankra.
Okay.
So Azikiwe left Ghana. And after he left, things started taking, we had newspapers. He was in charge of one of the newspapers in Ghana. I think it was the Morning Post.
Okay.
He was editing. And his editorials were stinking. He was, bamboozling the British colonial system, and they didn't like him. So I think they managed to get him out. He left Ghana, and people were sorry. So from there, I started having ideas about journalism, how to write. And my eldest brother gave me a little bit of tuition, allowed me to read. And when I was in the Navy, interesting, when I was in the Navy, we were running shifts. On the ship, we ran shifts, morning shift, afternoon shift, night shift, and so on. And during our free time, when we weren't on duty, we practiced public speaking.
Oh, okay.
So we wrote topics on pieces of paper, folded them, put them into a hat, and then when you picked a subject, then you had to speak on it. That was the beginning of my interest in public speaking. And when I was discharged, there was a shop in Accra, Luttrell Street.
Yes.
There was a bookshop there. That was where I bought my first public speaking book called Public Speaking and Influencing Men in Business. That's the title of a book. You know, so it developed. It developed one interesting.
From one stage to the other.
Well, yeah. So I learned to do sport outside my home. I learned to do sport outside my home, and it helped me. You see, because later in my life, I managed I got a friend, an American Peace Corps retired fellow. The two of us, we brought Toastmasters to Ghana, and Toastmasters today, we have about 30 clubs in Ghana.
Oh, wow.
Teaching people how to speak without fear, without hesitation. You know.
So before you got into journalism fully, in fact, which year did you get into journalism?
I can't tell you. You know, the beginning was checkered.
Yeah.
So I can't say exactly, but I got into it. I never went to the training school here.
Yeah.
The Institute of
Journalism.
I organized my first public speaking course in Institute of Journalism.
Meanwhile, you never attended the school.
24th May, 19 something. I've forgotten it.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
But there was this interesting story about one Richard Akwe.
Okay. Richard Akwe.
Yes.
The Lion Heart.
The Lion Heart.
That's right.
Tell us about him, because we are made to understand that, like, he was one of the founding fathers of Ghana football.
Yeah, correct. He played a major role. And he and one Adakwa from Ashanti, they played a major role in the founding and development of especially the league system. It took a lot of time for the league system to operate as we are doing it today. They will start, it will collapse, they will start, it will collapse, and so on. So it wasn't easy. And Richard Akwe, the Lionheart, he was chairman. They put him there as chairman, and he was very strict. Maybe, I'm saying maybe, he was dictatorial in some of his activities, but there he was. And he played a good role, helping to make football or soccer a thoroughly
Enjoyable
good thing.
sport,
Yeah, that's right. So we respected him. He founded a school. He had a school in Accra, a very big school. I think the school is still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I remember reading about the football history of Ghana, where in the 1940s,
Yeah.
he accused Kofi Bedu of using his pen to get him out of power, because the Black Stars then were supposed to go to the UK for some friendly games.
For a
and
tour,
other-
yeah.
Yes.
Well, Kofi Bedu had a pen that I think we haven't had again in journalism in Ghana. He was a terrific writer. And if you ask me, I'll say he had a poisonous pen. Yeah. When Dr. Buzia became Prime Minister of this country, his writings were some of the factors that got to get Buzia out.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he could write, and his command of the English language, superb. Quite recently I wrote to him, I wanted to visit the Asante Hini, and he never wrote back, I don't know why.
Maybe he's still busy. Maybe maybe when he hears this, he'll call you. Maybe when he hears this, he'll call you. But talk to us about the football history. You spoke about the Lion Heart, where, like I mentioned, he accused Kofi Bedu of using his pen to get him out of power. And he just mentioned that his pen was too poisonous. So the poisonous pen got Richard Akwe out of power. Then a champion, right?
Oh, well, after Richard Akwe, a whole lot of things happened.
Yeah.
Development of the, one time good, another time bad, and so on. Till we've now been able to study to make the league system work.
But I understand, were you in journalism?
I was in journalism from 61 professionally.
Oh, okay.
That was when I joined the GBC.
Yeah.
And initially, I wasn't going to be with the sports department. I was sent to the talks and features department. Talks and features. And I was writing stories and editing stories that other people wrote from outside. Editing them because I had a teaching experience and they thought my English was good. So I was doing this editing. Then somebody took ill in the sports department.
Oh, okay.
And a man called Festus died. He joined the army later, so he ended up as Colonel Adai. He was in charge of the sports department. The sports department was known as the outside broadcast department. The outside broadcast department, which we call the OBs, the outside broadcast department contained the sports department. So the real name of the department that I later joined was OBs. OBs, the main thing they did was sports and ceremonials.
Oh, okay.
You get it? So somebody fell sick in the OBs department and was out of work. And I was asked to go on relieving duties at the OBs. So I went. And after I had, the man was about returning to the department, Festus Adai refused to let me go back because he thought I was a good material for the OBS department. And there was a tug of war between him and the head of programs, a very tough guy called Joe Gatti, not Lartey, Joe Gatti. Okay. He was the head of programs. And they tussled. Eventually, Festus won the tussle. And I was asked to stay in the OBS department. Then I took up the commentary, and I'm telling you the story of how the Over to You developed. Yeah. My boss was Colonel Festus Adai. He was a very good commentator. He had a very good voice. I always tell people he had a velvet voice, beautiful voice. And he saw what I could do. So anytime there was a commentary, something to be done, sports and ceremonial, I shared the commentary with him. He would start, or he would ask me to start, tell people about the scene, and then when I finished with the scene, he would take over. I say, over to you, Festus. When he finished his bit, he would say, over to you, Joe. And we covered a number of interesting. When Temahaba was commissioned, we did a commentary. When the Queen visited Ghana the first time, he and I and somebody from BBC called Godfrey Talbot, we were sitting on a tall scaffolding at the airport. When the Queen arrived, she came in a Boeing 707. And when the plane stopped, and she descended, she said, I am here at last. Unquote. I am here at last. Why? Because the visit of the Queen to Ghana at that time kicked up a lot of national debate. Should she come or not come? Should she come or not come? And it went forwards and backwards. Halfway through the process, the Queen was pregnant, she had a baby, and so couldn't come. And finally, the Queen came. So when she landed in this tropical, she said, I am here at last. And then the chiefs with the umbrellas, the exhaust from the 707 was blowing their umbrellas. And the whole place was agog.
Wow.
That was one of the interesting topics, interesting ceremonials that we covered.
Yeah. Now, give us a brief history of Ghana football.
Well, Ghana football started quite a long time ago. It was one Britain. He was headmaster of government school in Cape Coast. He started the thing, and he recruited a few local boys, and they were practicing under moonlight and so on. And bit by bit, it developed until Accra Hearts of Oak came in. Then there was Stanfast. Stanfast died. For a very long time, we had Hearts of Oak and Stanfast. But Stanfast is gone. Stanfast is now Olympics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it went on like that. That way, we had problems with coaching. So when Ohinijam became the sports director, as I told you, Kwame Nkrumah was interested in sport. And he knew Ohinijam was interested in sport and was doing it. He was around Richard Akwe and so.
Oh, okay.
In Sawam. He was doing football from Sawam. And he was there. So when Richard Akwe gave way, there was this one. Then we had problems with coaching. So director of sports.
So Richard Akwe gave way to Ohinijam.
Let me say, Richard Akwe's period passed off, and then a new period with Ohinijam in it. Adakwa in Cape Coast in Sawam. No, Adakwa was in Ashanti.
Oh, okay. And
then they picked up the loose ends and started developing it. And Ohinijam did a lot. He was more or less acting at the instructions of Nkrumah. They brought in the Real Madrid. Nkrumah personally organized that part of our history in football and brought the Real Madrid to Ghana. They played against the Black Stars. It ended up in a 3-3 draw, you see. And it went on then. Ohinijam developed, we were told at the instruction of Kwame Nkrumah, he developed the Republicans. Real Madrid came, then we had the Republicans. And the Republicans brought a lot of problems. People, they were picking the best from each of the league clubs, and people didn't like it. And it was believed, whether right or not, whether true or not, I can't tell. It was believed that because of the bad blood that this Republicans thing created, ended up with this outside right player, Babayara, getting involved in a road accident, which ended up in his death. Yes. So it was interesting. And Ohinijam did well to develop football. Coaches came from outside, from Germany, from Italy, from Brazil, all over, and they helped in the training of people. Ohinijam at a stage wanted to develop other sports around football.
Oh, okay.
He did it, he launched it, but it didn't last, and it faded off. So we've had quite an interesting talk. To a lot of it will go into my memoirs.
Okay, so but let's talk about when Real Madrid came to Ghana. Were you the commentator for that?
Yes,
game?
I was. Who else? I was with my boss. What's his name?
Festus
Adai. The match took place at the stadium on I think a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah.
Hey, and you should have been there to see it.
I was nowhere near Bimbo.
You will read it in my memo.
I was nowhere near Bimbo.
You were nowhere.
Yeah, but people spoke about Ghana football then and Ghana football today. What were the things that the 60s did right to get Ghana to win the African Cup of Nations 63, 65, 78, 82? What?
All that was under Ohinijam. Ohinijam's, planning, He was a bit dictatorial, so people like him much. You know, sometimes dictatorship can achieve things, you know. And the players who were featuring, C.K. Jamfi, I don't hear his name anywhere now. It's very painful. C.K. Jamfi, he was a wonderful footballer. He did very well. He was a coach, went to train abroad, back in Ghana, went to train back in Ghana. Whom you don't know about C.K. Jamfi?
Oh, I've heard a lot about him.
Yes.
I even have a copy of his book.
C.K. Jamfi and others. Kwabia Dakwa outside right for Kotoko. Mfum, you know, Mfum is still alive. Dogomoro.
Unfortunately, he passed on some few days ago.
Oh, Dogomoro.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And then Agrifin, the likes of
Agrifin. Agrifin passed off. Oh, he left this planet too early. You know, he and the number 10 chap. No, he's a tall, big fellow. You know, these two, they has passed off. Whenever they were playing, and Agrifin was in a good position, he will signal the name will come. He will signal the number 10 and say, Daye, Infante.
Yeah.
Means position yourself well. The pass will go to him and off it goes. And he had very strong, number 10, he had very strong foot. His shots were terrible to save, you know, and they were going on like that. Daye, Kwablan or something, I think it was called Kwablan.
Yeah. But you spoke about how most of the things Ohenejan did were under the instruction of Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, that's right.
This appears to suggest that government had a deliberate plan on what they wanted to do with football.
Yes, of course. The deliberate plan at that time, during the time of Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah saw the virtue in combining sport with unity. And so he was using sport as an instrument to achieve political ends. The Union of Africa.
Oh, okay.
So most of the time when we traveled with the Black Star from here to play football, we had a contingent leadership in the group. And when we got to our destination, they held meetings and so on behind closed doors, which we didn't know about. You know, so it worked that way.
But it worked that way and also brought results too on the pitch.
Yes, it did. You know, and since we had the 4 successive
AFCON titles,
we've not been able to do it again. We are still struggling. Yeah, we're still struggling to at least add to the 4 the 4 victories.
Is it about time? I'll come back to a different story. But is it about time that government considers a deliberate plan on how they want to run football in their country?
You see, in football, we have amateur football, Amateur football is playing football for the love of it.
Yeah.
And then we have professional football, which is a career. The two, it's not, FIFA doesn't smile much on amateur football. It doesn't want, if I say it doesn't smile much on professional, because FIFA will always go in. FIFA is against the interference of governments in football affairs. But governments manage somehow, because some governments fund football development. You know,
but FIFA also encourages partnerships between member associations and government, because government will always provide the infrastructure for the
but that relationship is difficult to understand, because they don't like it, but they don't like governments to interfere with, and some of the associations report government activities to FIFA. To FIFA.
To FIFA. Yeah, but I think one thing that we need to get clear, however, is that what FIFA do not want is for politicians or government to dictate who leads the management of football when it comes to its
the whole idea
but FIFA would always encourage that government should provide the infrastructure, government should invest in the national teams. And if many years ago we had a deliberate support from Kwame Nkrumah, always instructing Ohene-Jan for things to be done, and that brought success, this kind of relationship wouldn't hurt.
That is why I said the relationship between FIFA and government is very difficult to draw the line. Very difficult. Because one time they are against it, one time they are for it. And it somehow it's working.
Talk to me about Kotoko.
Kotoko, hey.
Are you a Kotoko fan?
Not exactly.
House of Oak fan?
Not exactly. As a commentator, I try not to get attached to any club. Because if you do that, in your commentary, it shows.
Oh, okay.
However much you try not to, you are a human being.
Yeah.
It comes out. So I try to do a kind of
withdraw your emotions.
That's right. I try not to get too involved. But if you ask me, Kotoko, I like them because of their bravery, their winning sprees, and they are there, whether you like it or not. They are there.
But okay, so let me ask this question. Well, House of Oak is in Accra.
House of Oak in Accra, and I'm in Accra.
You are in Accra.
Yeah.
that's understandable.
Yeah.
Kotoko is in Kumasi.
You know what? In the past, people regarded House of Oak as a club that was supported by fishermen. So they thought it was supported by illiterate people. That was it. That was what I learned when I came on the scene. But I think that idea is it has warded off. Yeah. And it's a different thing now.
What about Kotoko? You've just given us a brief history of House of Oak, whatever the perception that it was supported by fishermen. What's the brief history of Kotoko?
Kotoko is a tribal club for Ashantis. That's what people think. And to some, the Asante quite recently showing, and there has always been Asante interested in Kotoko. They show it. It's a kind of representing the soul of Ashanti on the sporting scene.
Okay, so if House of Oak is in Accra, Kotoko is in Kumasi, how come these two clubs are rivals? What happened?
Well, it's because of their performance, their achievements on the pitch. So the rivalry between them is intense. And anytime they meet, it's a tug of war. Anytime they meet, tug of war. And they managed to. Remember, we had trouble in Accra Sports Stadium, so all sorts of things. I remember that when I was doing commentary, anytime I did a match involving Asante Kotoko and House of Oak, when I came back to base, the officials in the house had mapped out where I was wrong, where I did this, and then they called me and they said, when you were saying you showed too much of this, you did too much of that, and so on. And it was part of the training that I had as a commentator. So gradually it shaped me, and finally I became a kind of disinterested, commentator in clubs of the match.
What is your memorable game that you've commentated on, be it House of Oak domestically or in the continental level, or Kotoko domestically or on the intercontinental level?
I think I'll select or pick the match between Asante Kotoko and Engelbert. That was played in Kinshasa. Yeah. And
this was in the 70s?
Yes, in the 70s. It was a match. That really was a match. And I find it difficult to forget it. You know? Then Mobutu Sese Seko was the leader of Congo, and he displayed his wholehearted support for Engelbert, coming to the stadium in a motorcade or with a motorcade of about 80 riders.
Wow.
No joke at all. And then when they lost, he left in disappointment. I'll give you the details in my memoirs.
I understand that, but in that game, what really happened?
What
really happened in that game that you've chosen that one?
Yeah, because the way in which Engelbert supporters behaved, what they did to support Engelbert, and the way we from Ghana very cleverly squeezed ourselves out of that any trouble, any serious trouble, is something that is weighs on my mind.
Was it a game?
Because if we hadn't been careful, it could have resulted in something very, very bad, very bloody. The way Engelbert supporters worked on, they worked on the feelings of their people. This will be in my memoir, when I went to collect the team's sheet, what happened to me, it remains a secret till now. You read my memoir, you will get it.
I was also with another. You got lost at some point.
Got lost? No joke at all.
What happened? So what happened?
Well, I mean, I was given a treatment that I didn't deserve. I didn't deserve at all.
They didn't want to give you the team sheet?
They gave me the cue sheet, but before they did, something happened.
Did they beat you?
They didn't beat me. They didn't beat me, but they did something to me. Read my memoir.
I would definitely have to read this memo. But what about the Black Stars? What about the Black Stars? Like a game that you commentated, that you felt that this Black Stars was this Black Stars game.
There are so many Black Star, Real Madrid. Yes, that was a match that made history. It ended 3-3. I think the Black Star was then rising. Ohinijan did something which is interesting. He said, anytime we talked about the Black Star, we should not say the Black Stars. We should not make it plural. We should say the Black Star. The Black Star representing a club, a national team. Black Star.
So it is the Black Star, not the Black Stars.
Not the Black Stars, yeah. But people don't care.
Oh, so we've diluted it.
Oh yeah, it's always the Black Stars. It should have been, or it should be the Black Star. The Black Star, And the Black Star, they've done very well, except that now I think that the team needs a kind of reorganization. It should be, when you have a car, you drive around for a period, you go to the fitter to change the oil and check your plugs and so on. That's the kind of thing we should do to the Black Star. We should revive it and then bring it up again. Because I think there are a few problems in the camp which we may not know of, and I don't know of, because I'll find out a lot, which I'll put into my memoirs about the Black Stars.
But okay, so there was a point that, or in fact, let me ask the question this way: were there a point you were considered to be the leader of the Ghana Football Association?
Me?
Yes, what a point like
Never. Never. There never was a point. If there was, I didn't know about it. But never. Never.
But if it had come to your attention, would you have done it?
96.
If it had come to your attention, like if you were
When I was younger.
Yes.
Maybe I would have considered it. Because it's an honor to be in charge of a Black Star. It's a big honor. And if he had proposed to me, I was involved in intercontinental relationships a lot. You know, there was one Egyptian who was in charge of organizing, administrative side of African Union.
Okay.
And I traveled with him a number of times on some of his things, you know. And maybe he was slowly, not intentionally, unknown to himself, he was getting me to be interested in the African Union thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe with that in mind, I would have picked up anything connected with the Black Stars, connected with African unity.
There are people who also talk about the 1966 World Cup that Ohenijan said Ghana shouldn't go.
Oh, go 66.
Or is it the role of Africa, sir?
Oh, when we went to Senegal, it was played in Senegal.
No, the World Cup. You know, the World Cup was held in England in 1966.
66?
Yes, where Ohenijan, because they had said that Africa was supposed to compete with the likes of the Caribbean, or it was in the Oceanic, so that they were going to get one rep. And Ohenijan wrote a letter to FIFA telling them that no, Africa was not going to participate in the competition. Yeah,
because of the number of places given to Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think that is okay now. Africa has quite a number of places.
The next World Cup will be like nine countries.
That's right. Let's see what happens. I wasn't keen on that aspect yet.
Oh, okay.
But let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
So I think Africa is sitting fairly pretty now in affairs of FIFA.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So when World Pele, said that there was an African country, Ghana, which could one day be a winner of the World Cup because he had been here. He had seen the quality Ghanaian players had and all that. But since then, football appeared to have taken the nosedive.
The nosediving, you see, unfortunately, we in Ghana are doing something that we should watch. We're injecting too much of politics into everything we do, into education, into medicine, in everything. Politics. And not only politics, but party politics. It's a divisive element. It's a dividing thing. Party politics. It creates bitterness, it creates separation, and it blinds efficiency. So I think we should watch it. If we can eschew politics in almost everything we do, this country will be able to travel very fast.
In this case, our football?
Well, in football, yes. Football as well. Football, education. Look at party politics in the schools. One time, NPP in power, they extend the secondary school to 3 years, to 4 years, and it's forwards and backwards. You know, it's not a factor that we should allow to grow. We should stop it. You see, many people now in Ghana, they go into politics not to serve this country, but to make money, for their well-being. And it shouldn't be that way. I don't see it that way. We should not go into politics just to make money or to be okay. Let's go into politics because we are serving our rural areas. Look at the rural area. I listen a lot because these days I spend a lot of time in the house. And what do you hear from a rural area? Water, roads, sanitation, repeated every day. And not much is being done about it.
Yeah. Let's sign out the conversation pretty quick. I was made to understand that there was a point you had to run to Nigeria. What happened?
Politics.
Same politics.
When I left GBC in 1973 out of frustration. I left GBC. And I went to Food Distribution Corporation as a public relations manager. And from food distribution, I went into politics. I was part of the outfit, the Ghanaian outfit that stood against union government. Union government promoted by General Achampo.
Oh, okay.
That's right. There was a referendum, whether Ghanaians liked it or not, and Ghanaians kicked against it. After that event, after the loss to Achampo, they started arresting those of us who were in the lead of the opposing group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was to have been picked on a early Saturday morning. But God being so good, I got the win of it. And I left the country on the following Tuesday, and went to Nigeria. And already I had very good connections in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So I reported to my good friend, Ishola Folonshaw. He was the leading commentator at the time.
Oh, okay.
And at the time I went, he was in charge of radio broadcasting, sound broadcast. So I reported to him, and you know what he said? He said, Joe, are you saying that Ghana doesn't want you? I said, yes. He said, look, there's a program going on downstairs at the music studio. Go and join them. That's how I started working with Nigerian broadcasting.
Oh, okay.
And they treated me very well. I should say this and say it again. They treated me very well. They have a big training school. I was given a chance to lecture at the training school, which I thought was a very big honor. And when Buhari, who recently retired, when Buhari was a military head of state in Nigeria, he had a number 2 man called Idi Agbon. Idi Agbon was known for his discipline. He was a disciplinarian. So he introduced a project called War Against Indiscipline, WAI, W-A-I, WAI.
Okay.
And the day it was to be launched, I was asked to go and do the commentary at the National Theatre.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Yeah. And everybody thought, Nigerian broadcasting, they thought Idi Agbon, being a disciplinarian, would arrive dead on time. So I was alone as a commentator. But when it was expected to arrive at 8:05, that day he arrived later. He arrived later, about 20 minutes late. And I was left on air. I didn't have any notes. And I had to talk from my experience. Talk about discipline, talk about this, talk about that. When I came back to Nigerian broadcasting, I had a girlfriend out of that. Victoria, an Igbo woman. And she would take me out on the weekends and introduce me to her friends. This is my friend from Nigeria,
from Ghana.
This is my friend from Ghana. But it was only friendship. It didn't go beyond that.
That's a nice one. So what advice would you offer to those who are managing football now?
Well, they have to clean their heads. I intend visiting, sooner than later, I intend visiting the present head of football.
Okay.
His name is
Keto
Fluku. I want to visit him. And then we have a little chat. Maybe the little experience that I have, a little, I just give it to him. If he takes it, okay. If he doesn't, he is right there. I intend doing that.
When you say they have to clean their heads, what does it mean?
Yeah, they should remove prejudice. They should remove hatred. They should remove unnecessary competition. They should, anything negative should be out of their heads. Let them think about football and Ghana. And let them say to themselves, we are here to make Ghana great in football. And it will happen. Let them develop positive thinking all the time. They should completely banish the things that have destroyed many things in Ghana today.
And i.e. the politics, isn't it?
Yeah, the politics. Politics is becoming the...
Football too is becoming very political.
It has already become political. Everybody is interested in football. People are making money out of it, except Lartey. I never made money out of it.
Oh, you didn't make money in football?
Oh, no, I didn't.
What happened?
My mother told me a good name is better than riches. And I have stuck to that till now. Whether it's good or not, you ask me, I'll tell you.
You never made money in football?
No. What my approach to life generally, including football, is not to struggle for money at all costs. No. It leads to trouble. So I am as I am, simple man. I have many friends. You know, I was fighting union government with President Nana Akufo-Addo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were together. We were there fighting against union government. We wanted pure civilian democratic setup, and it has paid.
But I'm sure you probably had the like of the opportunity of meeting the likes of Issa Hayatu, the likes of Haviland.
In the course of time, during the time they were in office.
Yeah.
Now they are no longer there, and it's a lesson to all of us. You'll be there. Shakespeare said, "The world is a stage, and all the men and women are mere actors. They have their exits and entrances." We should always bear that in mind. There's a time I wouldn't be here. Nobody will talk about me anymore. How many people talk about Kwame Nkrumah today? Not very many. And he did. We should be singing his praises almost every day, but we're not doing that. You know, he has done his bit and he's gone. Interestingly, there's a secret I have about my connection with Kwame Nkrumah's mother when Kwame Nkrumah died. Read my memoir, you'll get it.
We definitely will have to read that memo. And your life, your children also picked up, right? Your profession.
Well,
proud of you.
One of them.
Joe Lartey Jr.
That's right. We have Joe Lartey Jr. We have George Lartey.
Yes, George Lartey too.
George Lartey, he was in the seat. You know, broadcasting can make you frustrated. GBC can inject frustration into your veins. But from the way things are going, I think they are working hard to correct it.
Restructure themselves.
Yeah. Broadcast is a job that the welfare of the performers should be at the top. Anything else will bring the place down. Anything else. If you forget about the performers, the people who really do the job in broadcast, because there's a lot of strain, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of all sorts of things, you know, and it's up to the management to be aware of this and not to do paperwork, issuing queries and so on. They don't help, you know. So there's some element of frustration in GBC, and it should be removed. And I think they are working on it. I think so.
Final question.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the foreseeable future Ghana can win the World Cup?
Yes, we can. We can. Yes, I believe we can. The other day we nearly won it. We nearly did.
2010.
Very near. I think the one before the last.
The 2010 World Cup where we made the quarterfinal.
The one in which the maestro what was his name? Shot the ball
At the crossbar, Samoa.
Yeah, Samoa. We nearly got into the final stage. So we can, if only we put a few things right, we can win the World Cup.
But have you been disappointed that in the last 40 plus years we've not won the African Cup?
Yes, it's painful, not disappointed alone. It's painful that we haven't. But I think, as I said, if we do a few things right, just a few things right, I think we can. Because football appears to be in our blood. It's part of us. So let's see what can be done. I've told you I want to meet the President Kleku, and then we talk. And I hope sincerely, I pray that, when you are cutting the path, when it's crooked, you don't see it. It's the man sitting elsewhere so I hope he may take some of the things I'll tell him to heart and act on it.
Okay.
The other day I listened to a speech he was making, and I thought it was very fine, very nice speech.
Okay. Thank you. Lartey Snr, over to you.
Thank you.
This one, over to Muftau. He takes over.
I take it and thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Lartey Snr has been my guest here on Prime Take. Continue to enjoy the rest of our programs.